I know.
Absolutely gold.
Here we are. Well,
And you
fortunately, you and
blew
I
it.
we're recording on our DSLR camera, so we'll be able to use that. Welcome in. I forgot to start the recording. Dude, I do this all the time. When I film stuff, if I have two cameras going, I'll start one camera and not the other one, and it screws everything up. We're back. I'm Eric. He's
Hey.
Andy. I think I'll be able to use the footage that we.
That was good though.
Oh, God. All right.
All right. So, anyways, the gum.
The gum. I chew a lot of gum. It's like a mouth fidget. It's like
Yeah.
it helps me. And I even find I feel weird. I don't feel right, and I'm like, oh, I'm not chewing gum, and I'll chew a piece of gum, and I'll kind of feel a
It's
little more
it's
stabilized.
like when you walk into your house and there's no noise, and you're
Yeah.
like,
What the hell's going on here?
TV's got to be on somewhere, or the radio or something.
Yeah, flip on NPR.
Yeah.
Dude, I love that you have like an old school radio going with
Oh
NPR.
yeah, bro.
Dude, it's like I want to start doing that.
Oh man, that was my mom, dude. She always has one going. Always.
Dude, man, that noise, that dun 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 dun, every day on the way to school, I
Oh
would hear
yeah.
that. And Terry Gross, on the radio, just all right. Oh my God.
So, okay. So Mentos gum, Trident gum, Dentine gum. What I've noticed about these the gum selection that you've shown me or mentioned, is that none of it is like a sweet fruity flavor. It's all like some sort of a cinnamon or intense flavor.
That's what I have here now, but I usually also have a watermelon. So I like the icebreaker watermelon kiwi flavor
Oh,
and the extra watermelon. I usually have, I mean, those, I have both of those. I'm out of my watermelon kiwi, so I got to get more. And then I've also got an extra sour
okay.
strawberry. Technically, Ellie picked out the strawberry and the raspberry one, but I also have a is it Trident sour watermelon? I think it's Trident. They have like sour watermelon in a case like this,
Yeah,
um,
I like it when it comes in a shaker,
like one of these.
shaky cup, like that.
Yeah, I like it. I like it too. The problem with this is I can't take it with me. So usually in my
Shake it all
pocket,
over.
I'll have Trident cinnamon in my pocket.
Okay.
What's interesting about these, Andy,
Yep.
is they may contain wheat.
No kidding.
And I am, for those who don't know, most people know this by now, but I am gluten free.
Gluten, get it out of here. Gluten's getting the bootin'.
Free me of it.
Get it out of him, or it'll get out of him.
Andy, I have a question for you, and I am truly very interested in this question,
Diarrhea.
and it is, what led to your ADHD diagnosis? Like when did you get diagnosed? What led to it? Do you
Really
remember the
jumping right in.
circumstances?
How about it?
Yeah.
Jeez. I don't know butter on that toast at all.
No.
Just went and gave it right to me.
Yeah.
Crunchiest bread.
Yeah. No butter, no toast even.
I was. They were going to retain me in first grade.
Retain you, like keep you there, just and not send you home to your mama.
Yeah, no, they were going to retain me and keep me in first grade for 2 rounds of first grade.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I was not.
Did they?
Nope.
Well,
No, I went to a psychiatrist and we did a bunch of testing, and it showed that my cognitive scores and IQ scores and all these scores were suitable.
yep.
And that, it simply was that I was fairly inattentive. And then
Yeah.
they did probably like a Connors or something. And I think at that moment it was stigmatized to be diagnosed with ADHD. And I
Yeah.
think it took a while. They slapped an adjustment disorder on me, which is something that is very common back in the 90s.
Man,
And
I love the way you're able to talk about this, by the way, because you're able to, talk about it from a more, like a more thorough perspective than I think a lot of people can.
And being an architect, I don't know why that is. But
Yeah.
anyway,
It's great.
the
Well, I think there's a correlation between architects, and an
Yeah.
understanding of ADHD, not necessarily having it. But go on.
and then so eventually they were like, oh, like we think this is more anxiety based. We'll give him this adjustment disorder, and then it came to, I think it was around like second grade that they were like, oh no, like this is very consistent. It's not just in this short span of time, because there's other things happening in my life at that point.
Yeah.
And then they were like, okay, no, this is very consistent. This is clearly ADD, which is what it was called, I think then. And then, so that kind of followed me, but I wasn't really medicated for it. I did like the whole, like, Ritalin thing for a while until I started advocating for myself, and then stopped. And then back in around high school, I started to struggle more. We talked last time about how I had to claw my way out of this sort of hole I'd put myself in. Yeah. And that was when I started back up on a diet of Concerta and other vegetables.
Yeah, not much else because of the appetite suppression, right?
And I also, I remember developing a little, I was on, tumor? I think I was, a what?
Tumor?
No, I had a little tick.
You had a tick in high school?
Yeah, I had a tick and it was purely medication. It was a symptom of a medication.
What was it?
It was a neck tick. I also had I would click my finger. It was very strange. But
can you show me it?
Yes, I would do this a lot, all the time, or just cracking my neck like that, dude.
I thought you were just wasted.
And I would snap my knuckles like this all the time, and so they had to dial that in a little bit better, and then it was fine. But I remember just being like, my neck is so stiff.
Let me activate the medication.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. That's like Willow Smith.
You were a lot like Willow Smith in high school.
Back then,
yeah. A lot of similarities. That's pretty. So have you reviewed your paperwork? Because
I have it upstairs.
Yeah, because there's no way you remember all that, right?
No, I have my full psychoeducational. I have my full psych eval. I have all my testing. I have everything. How about you, buddy? I actually know your story, I think, but I'm interested for you to tell it, and I'm going to see how much I got right. Here, I'll write it down before you tell it to me.
We'll see how
you're going to say it, and then I'm going to show you what I wrote.
And then I'll grade you on it. There's one thing people with ADHD love. It's getting graded on things.
Yeah, that's why I'm excited for you to grade me.
So I was in first grade, I believe, or first grade or kindergarten. I can't remember which one. When I think back of it, it's kind of like a montage of something happening in school, me getting in trouble, and then sitting in the corner, and then a conversation with my mom, just a series of those things happening. But the event that my mom tells me about a lot is that she would get letters home from my teacher on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. And she said this one letter said, it started off, I don't know whether to laugh or to cry, but today Eric fell down from his chair, started rolling around on the floor, touching every kid that he rolled by. And that was that's the one that I remember. That's the story that I remember, just because it's so funny. And she's like, I wish I kept the note. I don't have it anymore. If she had that, I would frame it and put it on my wall. But it was just that. It was the not only the inattentive, it was the hyperactive and just disruptive. And so they sent me to the school psychiatrist. I don't remember much about the experience of that. I kind of vaguely remember the guy that administered the tests. I remember I got to not be in class, so that was kind of cool. I didn't really know. I didn't really understand kind of what was happening. You know what I mean? I didn't really know what ADHD meant. I remember my mom told me that I had it. I was like, oh, okay, so there's something different about me. Didn't really know what that meant. But yeah, kind of the rest is history. I vaguely remember thinking a little bit of maybe not relief, but oh, okay, so there's a reason why I'm different, I don't know if that registered as a good thing or a bad thing when I was a kid. Probably more likely that it registered as something that didn't feel good. But yeah, and then medication, they started me on medication. fairly young, and I just remember taking all sorts of different kinds of medication. I remember like waiting for some of them to work. Like I remember the Wellbutrin and just like waiting for it to work because that one has to build up in your system. And like my mom asking me like, "Do you feel different today? You feel different?" I'm like, I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know. And then some of the stimulant medications just making me feel really irritable. And the biggest problem for me when I was young taking medication was just the appetite suppressing aspect of it, because I was so skinny to begin with that not eating was like straight up like dangerous. Like I was malnourished, you know.
And it's difficult because if you don't meet a certain weight requirement, the medication, they can't give you the medication.
Oh, interesting. So I didn't even know that part of it, but I'm sure that was playing into the whole thing. But I think about that just like from the parent standpoint and how stressful that must be, just making that like, your kid isn't doing well in school and that's a problem, but then like this medication doesn't make them feel good, and then just trying to like balance that, like how much, like how important is it that they do good in school versus like them not feeling good because of the medication. It's just got to be such a difficult thing to juggle, I wanted to see how your bullets aligned with what I said.
Okay. I wrote 7th grade, did not do well.
That's program, right. Yeah.
Gifted and talented program.
Yeah.
Potentially retained.
That's all correct. So this was well after my diagnosis. The diagnosis was very young, but that's why I asked you about getting retained in 1st grade, because I was like, I wish that happened. I wish I got held back in 1st grade.
Yeah, that's the best time to do it. Well, kindergarten's the best time to do it, I think.
Because when it happened in 7th grade, that was obviously really tough. And I mean, fortunately for me, I changed schools. Yeah. I was still in the same town, but a new school had just opened up, so I went to that different school, which helped. But there was still like it's embarrassing. People knew about it. I tried to keep it kind of under wraps, but anyway. So that was not very fun. So you're right about all that, but that was just a product. Definitely a product of my ADHD, but not relating to the diagnosis itself. But one thing that kind of like, when I was coming up, I was one of 2 disruptive kids in my classes. There was this one other kid, I remember his name. His name was Russell. He also had ADHD, but he was very, very hyperactive. And I remember he was like way more hyperactive and disruptive than I was. And I remember feeling when I was in like 1st grade or kindergarten even maybe, I remember feeling like the spotlight is on him more so in like a negative light than me in a lot of instances. And that was kind of like, I kind of felt like I had a little bit of protection because Russell was there always getting like the heat. And I was in class. I was in
a little bit of wiggle room.
Yeah. And this was I was in Spanish immersion school at the time. It was a whole nother thing. I mean, a kid who's like developmentally behind in a Spanish immersion school, it was like there were a few issues going on there. But my parents thought putting me in Spanish immersion school would help, like, me be more advanced. Sort of had the opposite effect. Yeah, Russell, I was in classes with Russell. And then in high school, I remember junior high, I had a couple classes with Russell again. And he was the same, just like crazy hyperactive dude. And at that time, I was definitely more like my hyperactivity had subsided a bit. Very impulsive, but not as like hyperactive at that point. But I
was going to say, because like you've never struck me as somebody overly
hyperactive. When I was young, I was pretty hyperactive. But yeah, that subsided. And I think, like I said, the impulsiveness was always there, always getting me in trouble. But the hyperactiveness, I feel like I'm not sure why that subsided, but I think part of it had to do with like the like self-consciousness, that kind of developed as I got older. I think once I started to become more self-conscious, that really contended a lot with the hyperactivity. Huh?
Well, you're like egocentricity was like minimized.
Yeah.
You were more like self-realized, like
Yeah.
self-aware.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
And
like,
I
oh,
don't
wait a
know.
minute.
So, but I don't even know if that's a thing. Like if you are true ADHD, combined type, you have the hyperactivity. Um, I don't know if what I just said makes sense to like if you can be like if becoming more self-conscious of how you are presenting is enough to dampen that, or if it doesn't really, what I'm saying. Like I don't know,
I think
and
when you
I
see
don't
the
want to.
kiddos that are like, I think when you see folks who are like truly impacted, like that are hyperactive, you
Yeah,
see that you really do see like, oh, driven by a motor. Like
yeah,
you
yeah,
can really see that they are just going,
yeah,
and
yeah. So
it's
and like that's a pretty
whereas like,
I see that and I see myself and I'm like there's a distinction there, like
but yeah, like you can also see those folks who like are doing things to amuse themselves, and that's making them feel good,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
that's kind of also is like part of it,
yeah,
but they're two different
yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah. No, for sure, because that like yeah, the driven by a motor hyperactivity, like
That's the
that
one where you're like, oh,
that's not who I am today. That's
no,
not who I've been for a long time. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, did you have anyone in your life that didn't believe in ADHD?
Um, I think that there was some like confusion about like the process of diagnosing. I think
Yeah.
that, like I said, I had a lot of different things going on in my life at that time. So I think that the adults in my life were like, oh, it could be this, it could be that, it could be this other thing,
Yeah.
And I think that back then it was just sort of like, I struggle to say it was a new thing, but I think for that generation, the
Yeah.
boomers, I think the boomers were kind of, they were
Yeah.
like, whoa, wait a minute, we're doing what now?
Yeah, yeah. And like there's probably like a sense. Well, okay, I had stomach issues, right? I had like went to Germany, had a lot of gluten, came back, had 3 months of gastrointestinal distress. Went and got my stomach checked out, got a colonoscopy, got a
You got a colonoscopy?
colonoscopy. Yeah, colonoscopy and a
Down
oscopy, whatever the
out the
throat
butt.
one is. And after all the testing, they came back and they said you have lymphocytic colitis.
Huh.
And it turns out there's like nothing you can do for it, no cure. It sounds like it's sort of like a catch-all. Like we ruled out a bunch of other things. You have lymphocytic colitis. What does that mean? It means you have lymphocytic colitis. That's it. It's like, all right. What if? But it feels like there's probably something else that has more of a definite meaning and that we
Yeah.
can treat, right? I feel like ADHD, especially back then, kind of felt like that a little bit. Like, oh, we're just bucketing your kid into this category of like ADHD because we don't know really what else it is.
That's a good way to, that's a good way to explain it, I
Yeah.
think. Because now it's different. Now it's like, it's a process. What's interesting to me is in your particular case that it was a school psychologist
Yeah.
that, that they were doing all these tests,
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
I think that my experience was my parents being like, no, he definitely doesn't have this, so we're going to go to an outside provider to get a psych eval done to show
Yeah.
that he doesn't. However, it just came back like, yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
He has an adjustment disorder, and then it was later changed.
What's an adjustment disorder?
It's kind of like a temporary, like, okay, this kid's struggling right now, and that's what it is.
Because of like change? Because it's like a change?
Yeah. Why don't you ask Siri? Let's add it. I mean, as an architect and an
Alexa?
archaeologist.
That's a nice
So it's a
mystery.
short-term mental health condition triggered by a stressful life event.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But
So you've been
the result
you've been
though
adjusting
is
for a while.
the result is typically like some behavioral or inattentive difficulties, like
Yeah.
being disruptive, acting out,
Yeah.
being inattentive. Then typically it's like, oh,
Yeah.
what did you say? What? I've been adjusting for a while. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I see what you're saying. That's funny.
Okay.
And that's why I made the comment of like, okay, yeah, like they were seeing consistency through, years.
Yeah.
But
so it was an adjustment disorder till the adjustment period was over, and it's like, oh, we still have some stuff going on.
Yeah. There was not a lot of research. Like there was obviously a lot of research, but there wasn't a lot of readily available research, potentially like what you were talking about a couple episodes back. That parents could just. However, Ed Hallowell's book, and I still have that first edition that the doctor gave to my mom at that site.
Really?
Yeah, dude,
really?
It's in my. Cool. It's crazy, and I still look at it. Yeah, I still have it. I never got rid of it, and it's bookmarked. It's earmarked from my mom reading it.
Wow.
But they were like, he's got an adjustment disorder, but here's this book.
Yeah. Wow. Well, shout out to Hallowell.
Absolutely. Legend.
Yeah. We'll have him on the pod.
I got to say, the beard looks great, bro. Like,
does it?
You can shape it.
All right. Andy, have you heard of the Kentucky meat shower of 1876?
No.
This one's a little, okay. Trigger warning. We're going to do it, but it's trigger warning because this one's a little gross.
The Kentucky meat shower?
Kentucky meat shower of 1876. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay. In Kentucky, in Bath County, one day, a woman was outside doing, probably like hanging up some clothes or something outside. And all of a sudden, can you guess what happens?
She got a Kentucky meat shower.
She did. She got the Kentucky meat shower. Pieces of meat started falling out of the sky.
No way, dude.
For a few minutes. For a few minutes, she just starts getting showered with meat. And this is in 1876. So it wasn't a Omaha steak jet flying over, dumping its load. Okay? The shower lasted several minutes and covered a strip of roughly 100 yards long and 50 yards wide. I'm not going to... Leaving chunks clinging to fences and scattered on the grass.
Oh my God.
Okay. Oh, and the woman, her name was Mrs. Allen Crouch. She was outside making soap. She wasn't hanging around. She was making soap, and then all of a sudden, just meat started showering over her.
All right. Here's what I need you to do.
Yeah.
I need you to make me a sound.
Okay.
Of that.
All right.
Scenario.
All right. I'm gonna get some moisture in my mouth. Yeah, she's making soap, humming a tune. And that for several minutes of meat slapping down onto grass and screams.
Dude, I don't think anybody could have done a better noise.
Here's the craziest part of this story, okay? Are you ready for this, dude? Meat falls out of the sky. And they're like, what kind of meat was this? And it's 1876. So they don't really have a lot of different means to do like DNA testing or anything like that, right? So what do you think they did to figure out what kind of meat it was?
Now, when you say meat, I'm picturing beef, but it could have been poultry.
Chunks of meat. But what do you think they did to try to figure out what kind of meat it was?
Like they went to a meat factory?
They cooked it up and ate it.
No.
And I should say a couple of guys cooked it up and ate it.
Couple of dudes.
Yeah, a couple of guys cooked up the meat that fell out of the sky and they ate it. Okay? And they reported that it tasted like fresh mutton, venison, or bear.
So they were like, it was like lady got, Miss Crouch was pelted with meat from the sky. Two men walking down the street need to solve this mystery. And the first step is to figure out what type of meat it was.
Yeah.
Man one says to man two, how are we going to figure out what kind of meat this is? This is very important.
And they went like this. They went, man one just said that to man two went. He went, the stomach went, you think of what I'm thinking? And they
Look at
got
that.
up. They've scooped up the best looking pieces, the most intact looking pieces,
Yeah.
and they cooked. They heated up some coals,
Gobbled it up.
and they rotisseried it, gobbled it up, and they're like, mutton, venison, or bear.
Okay.
I wonder what bear tastes like separately.
I think I've had black bear and it was pretty chewy.
You've had black bear
Yeah.
from what, a hunter friend
Up
or
in
something?
New Hampshire, yeah.
It was chewy. I could see that. A lot of
Super
muscle.
chewy because I think they're very muscular and it was dark.
Did you like it or?
I think I had it in tacos. No, I think
Oh, okay. So probably heavily seasoned and
yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Chewy though.
it's hard.
dude,
Like when I say I've had rattlesnake, it's like, but it was in a sausage, so I don't know. Like I couldn't tell you what sausage tasted like. Wait, I could tell you what sausage. I couldn't tell you what rattlesnake tasted like.
yeah.
I know what sausage tastes like. All right. So that's the story.
Okay.
What do you think? It is unsolved, but
We
there
have
are
theories.
there's like a most popular theory.
Okay.
What do you think?
All right. Set
Caused
the
it?
scene for me. Where are we? Where are we in the globe? In Germany, did you say?
Kentucky. It's the Kentucky,
the
meat shower.
meat shower, of course.
That's why two guys ate it because we're in Kentucky.
Now, was the meat was there fur on the meat?
No,
Was it chopped
Um,
up like prepared like somebody was going to eat it at some point?
no, but at some they said they sent samples to doctors and scientists across the country. This is again 1876, so take this with a grain of salt on your nice steak. One scientist identified the tissue as lung tissue
Oh.
from either a horse or I'm not even going to say this part because a animal that you wouldn't want to hear it
Dog?
coming from no, human, and not an adult human either. Is what this one scientist I said, but you know he's a quack. All right,
Kentucky.
so to your question, it wasn't just like chunks of like prepared meats.
Yeah, it was like fleshy meat.
Yeah,
Okay. So, that there can only be one answer.
let's hear it.
Actually, wait a minute. Where is Kentucky? What are the states next to Kentucky?
Dude, don't ask me geography, man. You're exposing me. I feel like I'm being exposed like the calendar months all over again.
Well, dude, I'm asking.
But you could be asking rhetorically.
No, like I literally don't know. Like I want
All
to
right,
say
it's next to
Alabama.
Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia. Those are all the neighboring states.
Okay.
Mississippi.
Here's my final question. Where
Yeah.
is Tornado Alley?
Tornadoes in Kentucky. I think there are. Guess who I saw the other day, dude? I saw Penn Jillette at a restaurant in downtown nearby. Penn
What?
Jillette.
Really?
Yeah. Dude, I swear to God it was him. Ariana doesn't think so, but I looked at a picture of him today. It was him. And his voice was Penn.
Were you like, hey? And he was like, hey.
No, he was like so there was this restaurant they were walking by and it's kind of like they have an outdoor like fenced area and he was with kind of a big group. So I wasn't going to be like,
Hey.
There are tornadoes in Kentucky.
I'm going to go ahead and say that, tornado came through a small town of horses and then shot him over into Mrs. Crouch's yard.
I don't know much about tornadoes, but I do know that they could do crazy, weird things like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's plausible. I think the
Or it was a hot air balloon accident.
was there a propeller
They were like, all right, Jill.
chopping them up?
All right, Jill. It's Jill and Frank, and they're in a hot air balloon, and they're transporting meats.
They were transporting meat.
They're transporting meats, and the drop site, they were like, okay, like let's drop these meats where we need to drop them. It's very important, and we need to do it quick. And there's no locomotive tracks.
That was Omaha Steak originally used hot air balloon. to
And then
transport
Jill
their
was
steak.
like, all right, here's the drop site. Frank, hit it. And he was like,
He pulled the lever and
and it was
it
like,
went like that.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't have time to land. We're running a tight
We gotta
schedule.
hit the next spot.
He pulled the big lever, not the small one, and dumped all the steaks, which wasn't what is. They just wanted to do like an eighth of their load there, but they accidentally pulled the wrong lever and dropped them all.
Mm-hmm.
I think the tornado theory is strong. It's just like the 100 yards by 50 yards.
Oh, I forgot about that.
It happened for a few minutes. So that makes it feel unplausible. The most widely accepted scientific explanation. You ready for it?
Mm-hmm.
Which I also don't.
You're skeptical?
I'm skeptical.
Okay.
But it's that a large flock of vultures flying overhead grew startled and simultaneously regurgitated recent meals. A common defense mechanism when they need to lose weight quickly to fly away. I mean, we're talking, that's a here's why I think it's not very plausible.
Wait, 100 feet worth of meat?
Yards.
Oh, even more. 300 feet worth of meat got puked out by vultures?
I mean, imagine how many vultures. So there's a few problems.
Also, do vultures, do they fly in gaggles?
I don't. So I used to live where we had a lot of like turkey vultures hanging out. I don't remember them flying in groups. And if there, I mean, that many to produce that much regurgitated meat, the amount of vultures, this woman would have been like, yeah, there was like a million vultures flying overhead, you know?
Yeah.
And also, when they were cooking up this meat,
yeah,
I mean, I feel like regurgitated meat would have a pretty distinct look to it.
It would be sort of a bit slimy, I'd imagine.
And if they're startled, they probably were they're probably not in this massive group and they're all in the sky together and then they get startled. What are they getting startled by?
Airplanes?
All of them all at once.
Oh.
So they would have to be on the ground and then overhead, this woman would see these vultures, right?
Yeah.
So I think the tornado theory is better. And it's not like, I guess it's not, it could happen, right? Like that could happen. Like it's just the way the tornado is, it spits out just a nice truckload of meat. Yeah. I think so.
Huh.
Yeah. I think it just sucked up. But then it's like, I don't know. Man, if only these people had freaking internet, you know? It's too bad internet hasn't been around for the duration, for as long as people have been experiencing mysteries, you know? People would be like, hey, a bunch of meat just landed, and the guy like in a town over is like, oh, that was mine. Tornado picked it up. You know what I mean?
Sorry.
Mystery solved.
Yeah. That's a crazy mystery.
Yeah. The Kentucky Meat Shower of 1876.
Like, that sounds like a drink you get at a bar.
Kentucky Meat Shower. It sounds like a lot of, it could be a lot of things that are not.
What else could it be?
Oh, some sort of self-cleansing ritual.
Before you got your colonoscopy, what did they give you?
A meat bath. Something that made me evacuate.
You know, there's like whole communities of folks that like evacuate themselves in like a house together. It's like a therapeutic thing. Can you tell me the name of what it is?
What?
The thing that you do to evacuate your bowels.
I don't remember the enema.
Enema, yeah, that's right.
That's it.
Yeah. So like there are like folks out there that like they'll go to like therapeutic places and like just have like enemas
together.
I think so. It's like a retreat, like an enema retreat.
That's the worst retreat ever. Don't you usually look forward to the retreat? You know, isn't that part of it?
I think I think that it's like a cleansing retreat.
Jeez,
where they cleanse an enema at the same time.
God dang! All right, let's 43. Let's switch it up a little bit. I want to ask you I've got another mystery here, but I want to ask you. I'm gonna sneak back into ADHD territory. Do you have any like sensory issues?
Probably. I feel
Okay.
like people around me would be able to answer that question a lot easier than I would be able to answer that question.
Well, we'll loop back to it then.
What do you
Some
have? What are
homework.
yours?
A lot, dude. Clothes is a big one for me.
Oh,
Like,
neck. The
dude,
neck thing.
neck is brutal, dude. And my problem right now is like I've put on a little bit of mass, cultivating mass, as
You
Mac
look
would say.
great, dude.
Oh, thanks, dude. But a lot of my shirts are tight right now,
Okay.
and dude, it's miserable. I cannot. I
I,
go through.
dude, for the longest time, I just thought you were wearing V-necks.
I need to get some more V-neck. I've
But it
grown
turns
my
out that
V-necks
your
now are
shirts were
tight
just stretched out. It turns out that a
in the
lot of your
neck. Oh,
shirts
just
were
because I'm like
just
this all the time.
yeah.
Yeah, dude. Did you know another weird problem? This isn't sensory related, but I with a beard like this, I put beard oil in,
Okay.
and
Oh,
beard oil it's oil.
yeah.
So when I wear, especially like sweatshirts with collars, if they're white,
Yeah.
they just yellow right here. They get yellow from the oil.
Ooh.
It's really gross looking, and it's really hard to get out. And I don't like. So I've got a few sweatshirts that I really like, but they're light and they are yellow, and I can't wear them.
They're toast.
Yeah, same when I wore collared shirts, same problem would happen. Like light ones would just get yellow. It's like it looks really nasty. But it's just from the oil.
Yeah,
So
definitely. Definitely just
anyway, yeah, like shirts. It's a constant battle. Socks problem. Clothes in general are pretty tough. You know what I
say more about
realized?
the
Like
socks.
what
Say more about the socks.
the socks,
Yeah.
the seams, dude. Socks with seams. I just like
Around the little toe.
yeah, around the little
Cool.
toe.
Oh,
Dude, so brutal.
hate it.
Yeah, it's not fun. But dude, like there's a lot of thing. Only one is coming to mind. But like, when I wash dishes, for example,
Yeah.
like if there's anything in the dish in the sink that's like food in the sink, kind of like left over there and it's kind of soggy,
Yeah.
or like if I get like I'll lean up against the edge of the sink and like do
Yeah.
dishes and I get like wet right here, dude. All those things, like I didn't really realize why I was like so miserable when I was washing dishes, but it's like all those little things that were like sensory problems I was just kind of like ignoring. And what I do now, dude, I have like a whole system now. I have like I lay out a towel on the edge of the sink before I start. I
Yeah.
have the lighting right. I have like the whole area prepped because like if one of those little sensory thing goes wrong, it just like I just get so like overstimulated so quickly. And now it's like it's great. I can go through it easy now that I've kind of identified what the hang up was.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like little things like that for me.
I'm a big hoodie guy.
Yeah.
Wear hoodies a
I love a
lot.
good hoodie.
But I also, yeah, if my cuffs are wet,
Yeah.
I will be miserable.
Dude, wet cuffs are it's so brutal. Yeah.
If yeah, I think like that one's bad. Um,
Let me ask you that. Like, so for me, with like the sink or like the clothes that I wear, I didn't really like make the connection between my like discomfort and anxiety levels and the clothes I was wearing till like later on. Like it was always a thing that messed with me, but it wasn't until like I was like fairly recently that I realized that like the clothes I'm wearing are actually giving me anxiety. And if
yeah,
I change that thing, it's going to make me feel better.
yeah,
Was
like
it like that for you, or did you always kind of know that?
what? Yeah, no, I've like we've said. Okay, so here's a pretty good example. Like, and we've talked about this before, but I wear the same clothes in different colors.
Mm, yeah,
So like I have five of the same shirt that I wear
yeah,
work, and I have three pairs of the same colored pants that I wear to
yeah,
work.
yeah.
And
The green one, the
yeah, and I have two different pairs of the same shoes
yeah,
that are different. But yeah, like, and I think that I could attribute that to like I know that these are not too tight.
yeah,
I know that like I feel very comfortable in them. I know that they have like the right amount of stretch.
yeah,
You know, and then when I get home, I typically always dress. I always like change into the same things,
Yeah.
or like different variations of the same outfit.
Yeah.
And I think that that's probably all sensory.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and like summertime, I'm always in like tennis shorts and like a t-shirt, like,
Yeah.
but it can't be like a tight t-shirt. So yeah, like I think I do have sensory needs around clothing, but it's just like it's easy.
Yeah.
Just
You've
buy
set
the
yourself
same
up
thing.
so it's easy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's been like that for 10 years, so it's like
Yeah. I think one of my problems, dude, my weight fluctuates so much. Like I lose weight and I gain weight like fairly frequently, just with my gym habits. Like when I stop working out, I lose a lot of weight because I stop eating, lose a lot of weight, and my clothes fit differently. And I'm constantly doing that.
yeah,
So my clothes, like, they fit, they don't fit, they fit, they don't fit. What I started doing recently is just getting double X shirt. This one's not, but I started getting double X shirts, and they just fit me really big, and they're so nice.
yeah. That's what I wear.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
most of my clothes are like XL, so it's like, yeah, it's not fun, dude. These pants, they have just these shorts have the perfect amount of stretch to where when I sit down on the toilet, I can slide them off without unbuttoning.
Oh, that's
It's
nice.
the greatest, dude.
You have button-up shorts. Are they like? Oh, that's cool.
You want to see?
They're not athletic shorts. Ah,
They're like
chino shorts.
oh, I gave you a little
Wow, look at that.
happy trail.
Nice button.
They're what do you call it? Corduroy.
Oh wow, love that. That's one of my favorite materials.
We don't have a lot of time, Andy, but I do want to get to this. No, we don't have enough time to go over it. Damn it. We're just gonna
You're
have to
gonna
wait.
try and do the.
All right,
Arizona
everybody, you're just gonna have to tune in for the next one because you're gonna want to. Yeah, let me give you a little teaser. We're gonna talk about the Voynich manuscript. Have you heard of this one?
What is it?
Voynich manuscript.
No, never heard of that.
It is a 240-page medieval book written in an entirely unknown alphabet filled with bizarre illustrations of plants that don't exist on Earth. Carbon dating places the creation of the pages between 1404 and 1438, meaning it survived for over 600 years. We're going to talk about that one next time. You don't want to miss it. Make sure you subscribe, and you like, and you comment, and you do all those good things because we need you. We need you to do this because it's important
You.
for any YouTube channel, but ours especially. All right. Well, signing off from Nova Scotia.
And
And do you remember where you're from?
Texas.
Texas. Andy and Eric and Andy. We'll see you next time.
It's been real.